US and Iranian forces have clashed in the Persian Gulf, and the United Arab Emirates has come under renewed attack from Iranian missiles and drones. But President Donald Trump insists a ceasefire is still in place. Now, the escalation came as Washington awaited Tehran's response to a US peace proposal. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters that the US was hoping Iran's response can lead to a serious process of negotiation, but he criticized efforts by Tehran to control the Strait of Hormuz by creating an authority to approve transit through the waterway.
Obviously, we've seen the reporting overnight that Iran has established or trying to establish some agency that's going to control traffic in the straits. That would be very problematic. That would actually be unacceptable. The normalizing of their controlling of international waterways is both illegal and it's just something that's unacceptable. And the world has to start asking itself, what is it willing to do if Iran tries to normalize a control of an international waterway? I think that's unacceptable.
All right, we've invited Kamran Matin onto the program. He's Associate Professor of International Relations at the University of Sussex. Welcome to DW. So we've got the US President Donald Trump playing down the exchange of fire with Iran, saying it does not mark an end to the ceasefire. Are you convinced by that, or is this war essentially back on?
Well, at this stage, there is no return to full-out, all-out war. That's clear. But I think the potential of resumption of, all-out conflict is still there. These skirmishes or limited conflict in the Strait might be part of U.S. attempt to keep pressure on Iran while it studies and is supposed to respond to the proposal by the U.S. And some U.S. officials said they are expecting a response today. This is a reportedly one-page document which is supposed to lay the ground for ending the war, but also delineate the way forward in terms of the negotiations and the main topics and some advanced commitments from Iran which U.S. seeks. So I think while that proposal is not still fully either rejected or accepted, I think we might still see movement by American troops in the region just to remind Iran that U.S. is still in the region and can use force if necessary.
So the United Arab Emirates says it's come under attack again. Why is Iran targeting the UAE in particular?
UAE is the only Gulf states which has direct link with Israel. It is in regular contact with Israel. In fact, Israel deployed anti-missile system in UAE following Iranian attack. And UAE has a much more hawkish stance on Iran and the way in which it believes the war should be ended. And in that regard, its position is different from the Saudi Arabia or other states. So Iran sees UAE as basically a close ally of Israel as well as US, I think. But the Israeli link is what really provokes Iran and explains why they're targeting UAE even more than Israel.
And what is the current status of talks to secure a negotiated end to this conflict as you see it?
Well, the last we have heard is this so-called one-page document, which is supposed to be the basis of ending the war, but also the broader framework within which the two sides are supposed to discuss, the terms. But I think, as before, the main issue which divides the two sides, and I just don't see how either side can back off from it without losing face, is the nuclear issue. U.S. has always insisted on removing Iran's ability to make a nuclear weapon, and this includes its enrichment facilities and ability within Iran. And Iran has always said that domestic enrichment is its red line. So it's really difficult to see how they can, bridge these two very different positions. One way might be, and we have heard reports about this, is that Iran agrees to a very long-term suspension of enrichment, followed by only very low-level enrichment under strict international monitoring. Whether this can be sold internally to IRGC and hardliners, so to speak, within Iran is something also, is not possible to really assume in advance. So we have to see what Iran says to this one-page document, and I think that would clarify many things for us.
Right. So a new US intelligence assessment reportedly suggests that a substantial percentage of Iran's drones, missiles and missile launches remain intact. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm not really surprised by that because Iran was expecting this war. I mean, if nothing else, the 12 days war last summer must have alerted Iranian leadership to the fact that another war is likely, if not imminent, given that that war did not end with a formal end of hostilities. No documents were signed. Even the ceasefire was really quite de facto rather than a formal ceasefire. So they had nearly 6 months to prepare. Iran has, established a lot of underground bunkers. Sometimes they call them missile cities. These are deep underground, difficult to destroy from the air, and they must have stored a lot of their missiles and drones there, and therefore they have been, they have survived massive airstrikes by US and Israel.
And this one, very quickly, perhaps, how long do you think that Iran can withstand the US blockade of the Strait of Hormuz? After all, Iran is also an exporter of oil.
Well, I'm not an expert in this regard, but what I have seen suggests that Iran has several months to direct and kind of store its oil production. If the oil export is disrupted for a long time, then Iran has to actually shut down its oil wells, which is extremely costly and almost impossible to resume work on this oil. So in a way, this is a matter of sort of who blinks first. So Iran believes that it can wait this out, and it is bearing less pain than the US if the blockade continues. But in longer run, I think Iran will be under heavy pressure if the blockade continues.
All right, thanks so much for your expertise. Kamran Matin talking to us from the University of Sussex. We appreciate that.